Hey, beautiful human. Welcome to episode 10 of From Chaos to Cozy, where we're on an amazing journey, gaining clarity around our chaos and how to see our cozy more clearly. In the last episode, we looked at some flags that show us when we're in fear and tools that can consciously transform our awareness from our chaos to our cozy. In this episode, we'll return to our focus on those chaotic human characters we interact with and awareness of our cozy that comes about because of it. A pivotal experience that I had in my life is when I stepped into my power of no, N-O. There's a little joke that I talking about. It's a little boy's mother caught him playing with her digital camera. She told him to bring it to her, and he replied in a pouty voice, "No, I don't want to." The mother gave the look to her husband, so he pulled his son to the side and in a whisper said, "Listen, you got to teach me how to do that." Now, I'm not intending to start any marital fights. I share this story because it reminded me of my childhood and other children I've observed when we've learned that magical word of no. We are taught at an early age through praise and punishment to not resist. We're forbidden to not say no to a request or an order from someone who's an authority over us, like a parent, teacher, religious leader, political leader, police officer. The list seems endless. And we've been taught that a large amount of the population is in a position where we don't disobey or reject their demands. Obey your teacher, listen to your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa, older brother, older sister, babysitter, be nice to strangers, listen to your supervisor, blah, 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 right? It's no wonder that we've kind of lumped the entire population of the world into a huge bucket to obey. Because we develop a conditioned belief that we're supposed to obey everyone else, we also develop a belief that everyone should be doing what we ask as well. And boy, aren't we surprised when someone tells us no. What? We just don't understand how they could do such a thing. And when an answer of no is given in a negative context, usually some sort of emotional encounter will happen. There'll probably be some sort of expression of sorrow involved, and if that doesn't achieve the desired turnaround to a yes, then we might experience anger, trying to bully the answer of yes into being. And then if it escalates far enough, there could be the dreaded rejection we've been taught to fear. People walk out of the room, they hang up the phone, or push someone out of their life, hoping that drastic action will spark the need to obey. And we've been taught to take it personally when someone tells us no, or take the actions of others personally when we tell them no and get hit with the emotional manipulation tactics. The discovery that we're the only ones responsible for our own emotional choices frees us from being responsible for everyone else's emotions, and it empowers us to take back our lives. We give our power away when we allow others to manipulate our emotional choices. Guilt is really nothing more than fear of rejection. We feel bad about an action because of how someone else might or did react emotionally to the situation. And guilt is at the foundation of manipulation. In reality, emotional stories happen only in our own minds. In the outside world, things just happen. There are no stories that surround the situations until an emotional human being gets involved. Whether a bear poops in the woods was never really a question the animals of the forest cared about. Only we, powerful, eternal, supernatural beings of unconditional love, living a human experience here, could ever care about that. Realizing our power of no it brings up a fact that we never have to do anything that we don't want to do. So listen to that again. Take it to heart. We never have to do anything that we don't want to do. And yes, there will always be an effect to our cause, a result to our action. But we still never have to do anything that we don't want to do. We just have to be okay with the external outcome. The eternal, internal emotional impact to ourselves is within our control. The external emotional reactions of individuals, that doesn't happen inside us. They are emotions going on inside of someone else. And we have no idea what they are really feeling. And it's absolutely none of our business, really, because it's out of our control. And we can possibly make it an easier choice for someone to choose love over fear or fear over love, but we are not responsible for anyone else's choices and actions. If someone is determined to be unhappy, sad, hurt, depressed, angry, joyful, happy, or content, there's nothing we can do to control that. We could give someone everything in the world that we have, and it may never be enough for them. We have no idea what is on the person's list of conditional love laws that will allow them to feel loved or accepted. A personal experience that I had that I want to share with you could be called the case of the missing shawarma. Being a heavy-duty people pleaser growing up, I often found myself giving up myself for others to the point I didn't know what movies I liked or restaurants I preferred because I was always motivated to make sure everyone else was happy. And I came into the power of my no on an extensive road trip I took from Colorado to the upper northwest of the United States. And this was, probably about 15 years ago. And I was staying with some friends in Portland, Oregon for about a week. And in the middle of visiting there, my host for my next destination initiated a conversation via text. You know how those go. But the conversation lasted a couple of days with intermittent replies as we both were about our busy days. And, I'm sure, like I said, we all understand how communicating via text creates a higher possibility of miscommunication because we can't hear the tone of words and see facial expressions, things like that. The mystery started, though, as she mentioned an establishment that she was aware of near where I was staying that served amazing shawarma. It's a Middle Eastern dish. It has like chicken or you can have other meats and it's onions. And so it has a very strong odor to it. And my first thought was, oh, how nice, she's letting me know so I can go try it. When those thoughts were pushed away, way out of the way, with the request for me to pick some up to bring her. Now, at first I thought she was kidding since, she was about an 8-hour or so drive away. And I joked with her about it, but the text conversation became very serious. She provided me instruction on obtaining a cooler and ice and requested that I call her from the store when I was ordering it so she could make sure that I ordered it the way she wanted it correctly. And now the joke was on me. First came the messages of how barren her small town was of any good food, and it would be a treat for her if I was able to bring it to her. And she hoped that being friends, it wouldn't be something that's too much to ask for. And when I responded with I would need to think about it because I was busy visiting my friends in Portland and really didn't want to go through all that trouble for some food, and that's my perspective, and have it in my vehicle with me for all that time. As at the time I had one of those Nissan Cubes that didn't have like a true trunk. You just kind of had it in the back seat, right? And so that shawarma smell would be battling me for that 8-hour journey. Well, we moved from that the sadsies and that part of the manipulation. That's what that is, right? And we went to DEF CON 2. And since the sad face of manipulation was not working on me, she switched to bullying. Still by text, she expressed her concern that she hoped she wouldn't have to get angry over this in order for me to do what she wanted. And this is where my fight or flight kicked in. In confrontational situations, if I switch into fear reactions, I will 99% of the time choose to flee, and that's what I did. I responded to her that I felt uncomfortable staying in her house, so I planned on getting a hotel. And I still wanted to see her, but I felt more secure if I had someplace I knew I wouldn't be thrown out of if she got angry with me. I hadn't seen her in about 20 years, and we hadn't talked much during that time. And the texts stopped after that last reply. And during the silence, I reflected on how I was feeling, and as my Portland friends, they helped me calm myself. My memories started to become clear. And in the past, I had always given in to what she wanted to do, so I couldn't really blame her for thinking that I would still blindly do whatever she asked of me. But part of this road trip was evidently going to be learning to say no if I didn't want to do something. So I didn't hear back from her at all over the next few days, and so I ended up changing my plans to go visit Mount Shasta in Northern California instead. In the morning I was leaving, I received a long, detailed Facebook message starting off with a statement about how she thought I would never end up on the list of a-holes in her life that had let her down, and it went downhill from there. So one of the things that she had mentioned was one of my big fears at the time, when she said she felt I was a hypocrite for saying all I did about love but didn't practice it. She also stated she wouldn't want someone like me to be in her house near her daughter anyway. So she was definitely speaking from her inner child who was in fear because in her mind I had rejected her, so she was reacting in fear. And I was driving for many hours on the road after that to Mount Shasta, so I had a lot of time to think about the situation, and my fear ego was a great co-pilot. It's like they were in the back seat, like a backseat driver. I just heard, her rejection just echoed in my car for a couple hours, replaying what she had said over and over and over in my head, accusing me of all these things that I was fearing, right? And so when I stopped to get gas, I thought I would try to reply to her, but alas, I was unfriended and blocked. The rejection was complete. I didn't need to concern myself with responding after all. And I am thankful for the experience of the shawarma. It taught me that I do have the power to say no, and that I lived through it all. I had a peace-filled time in a beautiful little town at the bottom of Mount Shasta, and I was able to let go of investing time and thinking about someone else's emotions. All I could do is own my own emotions. No, I haven't tried shawarma yet, and I haven't spoken or interacted with her since. I did have a dream about her that she showed up at my house and wanted to stay there as she was traveling around the country or something like that. And I greeted her with a hug, and in that dream I released any kind of angst or anything that was holding against her that I had against the past situation. So it was very freeing there. And, thinking about trying to please people, that can make our heart tingle with fear of failure. And it's a trap. When we try to please others, we are setting ourselves up for failure. We will fail at some point. There's no way we can live up to all their love laws and our own simultaneously. There will be conflict because some of our expectations will contradict each other. We can instead find freedom in our power of no. We can say no to anything we don't want to do. The fear of rejection is made powerless with this awareness. And if someone rejects us, we realize it's not about us. When we sit in this power of no, we realize we can never truly be rejected. We're 100% unconditionally loved by the Creator and all these beings of unconditional love playing the parts of the humans on the earth. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else is just a character in a really cool romantic comedy horror thriller action movie. It isn't real. We can only pretend that we are rejected. And the more we use our power of no, the more we remember the powerful beings that we really are. We begin to see the bedtime stories we're telling ourselves that keep us in the fear slumber. We can use the word no a lot more often, and we learn to feel guilty less about all that. We say no, not out of anger and resentment towards others, but out of love for ourselves. Unconditional love for ourselves. So try saying no, even if you have to start by saying it inside your head first before it escapes out of your lips to others. And it will change your life. Think about some times where you wanted it to decline, but you didn't. What were you fearing? Repeat this statement 3 times a day for a week. I never have to do anything I don't want to do. I never have to do anything I don't want to do. And I never have to do anything I don't want to do. In fact, you don't even have to do that 3 times a week if you don't want to. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, right? Some of you probably were saying that, weren't you? Well, I don't want to do it, so I'm saying no. You're funny. All right. Something that I learned in my decades in corporate management is how we're normally taught as humans to define an individual by their actions, rather than look at their actions as something separate from the person. Just simply seeing their actions as actions without labeling someone based on those actions. Like an actor's performance is not who they are. It's what they performed. Others' actions may help us define their character. Their words help us define their wisdom, but their treatment of others can show us more of the real them when they're not in fear. As I mentioned quite a bit, when a human, their inner child, feels unsafe or out of control, it ignites and goes into fight or flight mode, which kicks out our intelligent, compassionate, loving personality to become a reactionary, hissing cat that attacks, runs, or attacks and then runs. And humans do the best they can in each moment with what they have and know. When they learn new things, they tend to act differently. But when a human is triggered into fear, most humans all act the same. Greedy, abusive, degrading, forceful, rejecting, manipulating, betraying. I'm sure you have your list that looks similar to this, right? That you've experienced from other people when they are in fear. It is an old, primitive us that kept us alive when we were young. It's not who we are. It's a program that runs for our survival. And what we can learn is to detach the triggers that are no longer needed to keep us safe. So for my shawarma friend, who was the perfect character I needed in the moment to show me what I wanted to see about myself, I don't trap her into that role she played in that moment out of fear. I allow her to take on whatever other role she wants in her life. And I also don't trap myself into that role and who I was back then. If we reconnected in this life, it would be as new characters in new roles, at least from my point of view. Again, I can't control her point of view, but that's how I would approach it. Because if we connected as the old characters, what good would it do but end in a battle with those characters who were in fear, battling each other again, trying to prove that our small t truths that were rooted in fear were more truer than the other person's small t truths. That always works out well. The reflection I saw when I looked at and interact with her in that moment was for me. And who knows what she saw when she looked at and interacted with me. That was for her and is really none of my business. It's more productive to focus my energy on what I gleaned from the situation because that's the only thing I can really do much with. I came across a Facebook post recently that mentioned a different version of you exists in the minds of everyone who knows you. The gist was that the person you think of as, quote, yourself exists only for you, and even you don't really know who that is. Every person you meet, you have a relationship with or make eye contact with on the street, they all create a version of you in their heads. You're not the same person to your mom, as to your dad, as to your siblings, as to your coworkers, your neighbors, or your friends. There are at least 1,000 different versions of yourself out there in people's minds. A you exists in each version, and yet your you, yourself, isn't really a someone at all. It's an illusion. It's a personality or a character that you've created day by day. And who knows what character we're playing in someone else's head. And who knows how close the version we see of someone in our head is to the true them. During my life, as I was discovering the capital T truth of our inner unconditional love, it dawned on me how the prioritization of the outer things was a bit off. And through my inner journey of raising my self-worth and self-love, my spiritual posse in me came up with a mantra that helps me clarify the priority of things in my life, which I have named the Spice Cake Mantra. And I'm not sure why it's all about the spice cake. Maybe it's what I was eating at the time. I have no idea, but feel free to replace it with any nummy goodie that floats your boat. So we'll close out this episode with the spice cake mantra, which goes like this. I am my own spice cake. I am enough. I am more than enough. The unconditional love of my true friends and family is the frosting on top of the spice cake. My accomplishments in life are the cherry on top of the frosting on top of the spice cake. My intimate relationships are the whipped topping on top of the cherry, on top of the frosting, on top of the spice cake. And if for some reason I don't have the whipped topping or the cherry, or if for some reason all of my family and true friends die, because that's the only reason they would ever stop loving me in this physical realm, even then, without all of that, I would still be one awesome frickin' spice cake. I hope you enjoyed that. And let me know in the comments below if you have a mantra or an affirmation that helps you recalibrate your priorities when you feel you're out of balance. In the next episode, we'll chat about how some of the things that we experience when we're younger influences us as echoes throughout our lives until we're able to consciously recognize these programs that are running on autopilot below the surface in our subconscious. So until next time, remember, every second of every moment of our lives that we are eternally and unconditionally loved by the Mother and the Father of all things, our Creator. And of course, I love you too. So hang in there. Take care of you. We'll see you soon.